when we spoke, you also mentioned to me that you took on a second job, right? At that point. So was that at that point, okay, you're like, okay, cool, I need to, take on a second job. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was working at a pub 5:30 till half midnight, about 40 hours a week. So it's a full-time job. But it was just covering the bills. And I knew my original goal to become wealthy, because wealth is different. Wealth isn't a number because everybody's got a different number. So wealth to me was a feeling. And I thought, what would I have to do in order to feel wealthy? And it's difficult. If you ask yourself that question, it'll take you a long time to come to it. And I come up with the idea that if I was sat on a yacht that I owned in some Mediterranean lagoon, sipping Mai Tais with my wife as the sun went down, and I had sufficient cash in the bank to fund that lifestyle, I would feel wealthy.
Okay.
So that was my original goal. It's changed a lot since then, but that was my original goal. So I reckon I could get a yacht. So I did some research, get a yacht for £100,000, and I reckon about £200,000 that was kicking out 8% a year. I could fund that lifestyle. So my target was £300,000. Now, clearly, evidently, I wasn't going to do that work on a minimum wage behind a bar. But I had no skills and qualifications, so there were other options, albeit continuing on minimum wage. And that because I was starting work at 5:30, they gave me the day to do something else. So I thought about some of the options that were available to me and decided that perhaps a cab driver I should do. And I'd seen lots of cab drivers and I knew they were making good money, but I never wanted to do it because I was arrogant enough to consider cab driving as, I don't know, the last refuge of a desperate man, if you wish. But I was desperate. And so I decided to swallow my pride and become a cab driver, which is a ridiculous thing to say. I know that now. As I said, I've changed, but it was an attitude I had back then. So what I started doing was I spoke to a number of cab companies, and I chose one, and I started working from 7 o'clock in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon, 4:30 in the afternoon. And then I went home, changed my uniform, grabbed something to eat, had a shower, and went to the pub, which fortunately was just across the road from me, so there's little travelling time. So in that hour off, I did those things, and then went to work from 5:30 till half midnight. So, and I did that for about 3 months, working 2 full-time jobs every day. And it nearly killed me. Nearly killed me, I don't mind telling you. So what I decided to do was I gave up the bar job, but still worked 80 hours a week as a cab driver. So I was working from about 5 in the morning till 5 at night, 5 days a week, and then I'd work Saturdays till 5 and then till 2 in the afternoon on a Sunday. So I was doing 80 hours a week, and I did that for about 2.5, nearly 3 years, taking only Christmas Day and Boxing Day off. But what it allowed me to do was I've now got 2 wages, the equivalent of 2 wages, albeit I'm only working on minimum wage. I was working 80 hours, so it's 2 wages. So it allowed me to continue to pay the bills, contribute to the bills in the family, but it also gave me one salary which I could save. So I was saving about £1,000 a month. And that's one of the key components of becoming wealthy is you're going to have to work more. There are lots of YouTubers and books that will tell you that it's dead easy to make extra money, and there's going to be no stressing. You just get your laptop out and fill a few surveys in. That's not true. That's not true. Sometime along the road, you're going to have to work very hard. And of course, that's one of the things that why people don't become wealthy, because they think they're working hard, but if you ask them to double their hours, they'll say, I can't double the hours, or I'm not willing to double the hours. But I had to do it because I was desperate. And so I did that for 3 years until I'd saved up enough money for my first deposit on a property. So that took me just over 2 years to do that.
Wow. And this is, you know what, like, this is just like a story of like perseverance and hard work. And the fact that you were willing to do like 8 hours. 8 hours is a lot of hours. Oh my God, over like 2 years
To be fair though, it's not hard work being a cab driver.
Okay.
As you know, it's not like working on a coal face. In fact, when people ask me what do I do for a living, I just say I sit on my backside and talk to people. Okay, and that's effectively all it is. It's stress-free as well. So yes, it's long hours, but they're easy hours to do, in my opinion.
Okay, fair. I get it. So you feel like because it's not so strenuous on you, right?
It's not hard labor.
You feel like you can do more because of that. Okay, that makes sense from that point of view. And why did you decide property out of all things that, you know what, I'm going to save money and then actually I'm going to go down to get into property?
I didn't. You speak to any financial advisor and they'll tell you if you're going to go through the pension route or perhaps a stocks and shares ISA, it's going to take time. You need to be in the market for maybe 30, 40 years, which is what your pension's for, from age 18 to 68, I think it is now. I didn't have that luxury of time. I had 10 years to do it. So I went for the option that gave me the bigger bang for my buck, which was in property. As we all know, you have rental income from property, but more importantly from property, you get capital growth. And it was the capital growth over the 10-year period, the goal, 10 years I set myself to achieve my goal of $1 million, making $1 million. It's that capital growth that will eventually deliver the £1 million.
Okay.
So that's why I chose to go into property.
Okay, cool. And we'll talk a little bit about like how, in terms of your plans there and how that's going to work for you and how you kind of plan to use that in the future. Because I think it's very interesting for people to know the start and beginning. Because some people don't, they know that they want to make more, but they don't know why. So they don't know the goal. And not only do they not know the goal, when they do know the goal, they don't even know how that goal impacts the end. So when we talk, we'll speak about it because you have a clear understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, and when you get there, how exactly you're going to do that, which is, I think, is the missing piece for some people sometimes. Because like you say, the numbers can be different. For some people, 300,000 might be enough. Maybe. Yeah. A lot of people say they would want millions, but you know, my point still stands. It's different for a lot of different people, right? So you mentioned that you saved for about 2 years, was it?
Nearly 3 years. Yeah, it took me about 2.5 years. Well, no, just over 2 years to save the first deposit, which was well, actually, it wasn't just the deposit; it was all the acquisition costs wrapped up into about £20,000.
Okay, so about 20,000. And just so we're clear, people, we can mention. So can you take us through the numbers of the first property? Sure. What location it was, how much it kind of cost, etc., and stuff like that.
My first property was in a place called Norton. I can't buy where I live in Newcastle. It's too expensive in Newcastle, would you believe? So I buy about 40 miles further south on Teesside. So the first property I bought was in Norton, which is in Stockton. It was a 2-bed semi, a lovely 2-bed semi, gardens to front and rear. Get this, for £63,000. If you're watching this in London, in the southeast, read and weep. And you can still get them, by the way. So £63,000. I got it for £20,000. The mortgage at this time, so this is before COVID, the mortgage at this time was £87. The rent was £550. £50 went on management fees because I don't manage the properties myself. I don't have time. I see my job as an investor as just to create the income, create the money to invest, then somebody else can manage the investment for me. So it was £550. Mortgage was £87. Management fees £50. So I was coming out with a neck end of £400 a month extra towards my plan. So I was saving £1,000 a month from cabbing, and so there's an extra £400. Unlike, I suppose, a lot of people, I didn't blow the £400. I just added it to what I was saving. Now, when you do that impacts the saving because it takes less time to save for the next one because you've got an extra £400.
Exactly.
But that didn't happen for me. Something quite strange happened. Unexpected, rather, not strange. A friend of mine owns a company who puts in kitchens into restaurants and bars. And he says, Perry, I might need an extra hand during the week sometime. Could I call on you to come and give us a hand, put this kitchen in? And I said, I can't, mate. I'm seeing a solicitor on that day. And he says, I seen a solicitor. Are you in trouble? And I says, no. I says, I'm just buying a house. He says, I didn't know you were moving. I says, I'm not moving. I'm just buying another house.